A mother brown bear and her cubs appear in the streets of an Italian village. It's dramatic to see bears like this. These bears have a fascinating story to tell as they fight to survive. Bears and people have lived alongside each other here for nearly 6,000 years. So maybe it's here that bears can teach us about our future with these incredible wild animals. My name is Chris Morgan. I'm an ecologist. For the last 30 years, I've worked all over the world, learning about bears as a scientist and telling their stories. Eight bear species live in some wild and spectacular places, from the tropics to the poles. These are fascinating animals. They're intelligent, strong, and adaptable. And they've brought me to Italy, one of my favorite places in the world. It's a country known for ancient history, architecture, food, and wine. But what is less known to the world is that Italy is home to its very own bear. Italy bursts with energy. I feel a bit out of place here in the city, but my journey starts in Rome because part of Italy's bear story is here too, in the distant past. The Colosseum. It was built 2,000 years ago as a giant stage. Animals from all over the world were brought here to perform and fight. Lions, panthers, crocodiles, and bears. Thousands of animals were killed here in fights, and thousands of humans lost their lives as well. Just imagine the smell and the atmosphere and the excitement, how exciting it was for maybe 70,000 people in there. They were called venationes, contests and hunting games between men and wild animals. In one event, there was a big wooden whale that they made, and they opened it with chains, and as the mouth opened, out came 50 brown bears. 50 of them. Same number that's in the national park. But while all of this was happening in Rome, there was a place up in the mountains just 90 kilometers away where the wild bears of Italy stayed safe. And they are still here today. Abruzzo, Lazio and Molise National Park, in the heart of Italy. It feels a bit like stepping into the past, into a wilder, simpler time. These mountains and forests hide a secret world. Somehow, the bears here survived. So many of the mammals that were here 2,000 years ago are still here. Italy's Marsican bear is one of the rarest and most endangered bear populations in the world, a cousin of the North American grizzly bear. There are only about 60 Marsican bears in the wild, and they've learned to be secretive and peaceful, outlasting bears in most of Europe. It's a bit like an island here. The roads zigzag up into the mountains for miles. And that's it. Suddenly, you're in bear country. The bears still face threats here, still lose habitat, but there's also a chance to show there is enough room for people and wild bears. Europe's oldest beech forests cover the hills above the villages. It is so good to be back. I love it here. You know, there's bears all over the world, but I don't think any of them have the story that's quite like the story here. It's an amazing one. And there are people that have been following the path of the bear, and I'm here to learn from them. The bears are part of these mountains. They seem to connect the valleys, forests, and peaks. They use these mountains with knowledge passed down through generations, all just a stone's throw from the modern world. I leave the Montagenzana Nature Reserve to head to the small town of Scanno to meet a man who was born here in 1954 and has lived a life among the bears of Abruzzo as a forest ranger and a beekeeper. His name is Maurizio Carfanini.
C'era prima l'orso e poi l'uomo. È casa sua questa. Sì. Abruzzo è un'isola. L'orso marsicano è rimasto isolato per millenni.
This isolation is what makes them special, but also vulnerable. One bear he knows is a mother bear named Amarena. She was born in 2014 and is a well-known character in these mountains.
Amarena è una bella orsa, è bella grande. Pochi giorni fa stava qui in mezzo a quella pineta che andava verso il paese.
And a few years ago, she gave birth to her first cubs, 4 of them. They were often seen with her near the villages, sometimes right in them. Like all bears, trying to make their way in a new human world.
Il futuro degli orsi è proteggere il territorio. Non possiamo sempre togliere per il nostro egoismo. Secondo me bisogna lasciare la natura com'è. E la migliore protezione è quella, lasciarla a se stessa.
But letting her be isn't always easy. Amarena always attracts a lot of attention. I'm trying to picture Amarena in these little streets coming down with her 4 cubs and there being a bear family here in this village. How incredibly exciting for the people, but it must have been terrifying for the bears. The park doesn't seem big enough for bears like Amarena. What her family really needs is more uninterrupted habitat. This is where I fell in love with bears. It's a fabulous little village in the heart of Abruzzo bear country. And the people here love bears. There's bear symbols everywhere. But on this visit, I want to get a bit deeper. I want to figure out more about how these bears have existed for so many thousands of years here with people and what the future might be for them. And this is a good place to start. My friend Valeria Rosselli has lived here in Pescaceroli in the middle of the national park her whole life. She's a wildlife guide and well known as the local bear lady. Ciao Valeria.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I met her a few years ago when I was looking for help, searching for bears.
L'orso è qualcosa che mi appartiene,
Sì.
che fa parte di me. Tante persone lo amano e rispettano, altri un po' meno, però comunque pian piano hanno imparato a vivere e a condividere il territorio con l'orso. Nice, eh?
Yeah. No sitting.
No.
Pescaceroli has become a thriving bear town in the middle of the park.
And this, today you can meet a bear on the road,
yes.
drive slowly and it'll be an amazing experience. I
Yes,
like this.
for sure.
I like
La
this.
sensazione di condividere il territorio con l'orso, quindi...
It can be a complicated relationship between bears and people. I'm curious what the locals think about them.
Cosa pensa dell'orso?
Dell'orso?
Sì.
L'orso mi piace perché è un animale che è molto potente e mi riscalda l'anima.
È un animale bellissimo, va protetto.
L'orso è bellissimo.
Molto bello.
Bello.
Splendido, direi.
E abbiamo la fortuna di averlo nelle nostre montagne.
Non lo so, è un animale affascinante.
Però l'orso che gira dentro il paese non è una cosa buona perché può incontrare una donna, un bambino che si spaventano, no. Gli animali devono stare nel parco.
Io penso che sia un animale meraviglioso e che sia molto importante e credo che dovrebbe essere libero invece di cacciato o imprigionato da qualche parte, per esempio un circo.
L'orso è bellissimo.
But Valeria spends more time in bear habitat than she does in town. This valley in the national park is surrounded by an ancient beech forest that's used a lot by the bears.
Che bello questo segno di presenza. Com'è?
Most of them are very shy, the long-distant relatives of other Italian bears. Valeria's colleague, Ezekia Trella, knows the mountains and the bears more than anyone.
Allora, tutto a posto? Lui è Chris.
He's been a park ranger here for nearly 40 years.
Gli orsi passano e si grattano. Lasciano passare. Guarda pure l'erba. È perché l'escremento di orso odora a seconda di quello che mangia. Mangia erba, sente l'odore di erba.
Sì.
Mangia frutta e sembra l'odore di una marmellata. Mele. Poi si grattano e...
Ah, sì.
Sì.
Qui?
Eccoli qua, guarda.
Sì. Incredibile. Ezekia knows the mother bear Amarena too. He's followed her practically her whole life. He says she's a great mother, but also a bear that could get into trouble around humans. Her cubs too.
E Amarena già prima di partorire frequentava 2 centri abitati. È uno di quegli orsi che ha perso il timore verso l'uomo. Sciolta la neve, diciamo a fine maggio, piano piano è uscita dalla tana e con questi 4 piccoletti che la seguivano e hanno passato quasi l'intero mese di giugno e metà luglio nei ciliegi intorno ai centri abitati. A volte entravano in paese.
Cosa speri per Amarena e i suoi cuccioli?
Sono il simbolo, sono la speranza di questa popolazione, perché con questi piccoli, uno di questi piccoli è seguito con radiocollare, quindi puoi immaginare gli spostamenti che ha fatto.
You know, all the bears need is a few pieces of wild land that are connected, and you really feel it. You really feel it here. We owe the bears this, you know. Just some place they can call home. Mi hai portato in paradiso.
Ma il paradiso ci sta, questo però.
Bruno Damis has hiked hundreds of miles tracking and photographing the Marsican brown bear. It was Bruno who helped me see my first bear here a few years ago. He's filmed bears in every season, and he's learned from them. With only 60 individuals in this population, bears are walking a fine line. They're at constant risk from a disaster like disease or genetic inbreeding.
What's down there? This dark spot you see? And under the tree.
These bears have a tough life, don't they? Can you describe it to me, the way they live, the life of a bear?
Credo che la vita di un orso sia piuttosto difficile in Europa perché l'orso ha bisogno soprattutto di una cosa, che è spazio. E noi non vogliamo darglielo questo spazio, perché l'uomo prende spazio. Per sopravvivere a lungo termine la popolazione dell'orso marsicano ha bisogno di espandersi, uscire dalla safety zone del Parco Nazionale d'Abruzzo, Lazio e Molise, che ha permesso di proteggerlo fino adesso, e espandersi di nuovo in tutto il territorio dell'Appennino centrale. Per passare dal Parco d'Abruzzo ad arrivare fino magari al Gran Sasso, al Parco del Gran Sasso Monti d'Alaga, deve attraversare tantissime zone diverse. Ci sono aree protette, piccole o grandi, tutte cruciali. Senza l'orso sarebbero delle montagne spoglie, silenziose, senza emozione.
You know these bears very well, perhaps as much as anybody. What do you think these bears can teach us about life in this modern, crazy modern world?
Se c'è una cosa che ho imparato dagli orsi è che sono perfettamente in grado di vivere accanto a noi. Lo hanno dimostrato sopravvivendo fino al giorno d'oggi, ma siamo noi a dover accettarli, siamo noi a dover trovare spazio nella nostra vita per garantirgli quel minimo di tranquillità e risorse di cui hanno bisogno. Il loro futuro dipende assolutamente dalle nostre scelte. Gli orsi ce la stanno mettendo tutta per sopravvivere. Come diceva John Craighead, il grande biologo di orsi, l'habitat più importante per l'orso è il cuore degli uomini. Io penso che sia esattamente quello.
You know, when you walk here, you feel like you could walk forever. I mean, this bear country continues over every horizon. But it does have edges, and it's easy to forget that when you're in the middle of it, because it feels so wild. So it's about giving bears room, and keeping them alive, especially females like Amarena, the mothers of future generations. Ezekiel the park ranger takes me to see some of the things the park is doing to help bears.
Buongiorno.
When bears are attracted to human food, they can become a problem or end up dead. So a bear will quickly learn that bear-proof chicken coops like this are not worth their time. Small vegetable gardens are everywhere. Electric fences can keep the bears out. Sometimes bears are killed by vehicles. So the park has put out road signs to slow people down. And they've installed acoustic deterrents that sense when there's a wild animal and a car close to each other. They emit a sound that scares the animals away. But nothing's more important than protecting more habitat beyond Abruzzo National Park to connect bears and ecosystems. And this room to roam is exactly what Amarena and her family need most. They're a lot like us, these bears. They need a few simple things to raise a family and survive. My last stop before I leave Abruzzo is to meet someone who may be part of the bear's future here.
Cosa ti piace dell'orso?
Tutto.
Tutto?
Sì. È bellissimo.
Matilde is 8 years old, and she's growing up learning about the bears from her grandfather, Maurizio. He's helped his granddaughter understand how important these bears are, and how humans share their world. The strength and resilience of the Marsican bear is what will see them through. Those who know her say Amarena has those traits. And maybe her cubs do too. I found out from Ezekiel that her cubs were now old enough to be independent. They left their mother in the spring, and one of them began a surprising journey. And this is where he came to. It's incredible to stand here in Gran Sasso National Park because one of Amarena's cubs made it here. That's unimaginable, really. Think about it, crossing the mountain passes, getting around the villages. going over the highways and roads and arriving here. That's 50 kilometers from where the cub grew up with Amarena. This pioneering Marsican bear, and it feels like a bear that's the hope for the future. Wherever their path might take them, it's the bear's need for healthy forests, intact space, and wildness that tells us when a place is healthy and whole for all living things, including ourselves.